All right, let's talk about financial reports. You ever look at one and your eyes just, glaze over? It feels like trying to read another language, right? Well, today, we're going to crack that code. We're going to show you how to peek behind all that jargon and find out what's really going on inside a company. So let's jump right in.
So let's kick things off with a big question. Think about it. A company's making a profit. That has to be a good investment, right? Well, maybe not. The answer is actually a lot more complicated than it seems. And you know what? It's the key to this entire explainer. Okay, so when you're looking at any business, the story almost always starts with profit. I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it? Make more money than you spend. Simple. So let's figure out where to find the official version of that story.
And that official record? It's called the Statement of Profit or Loss. You'll usually just hear it called the P&L. Now, the best way to think about it is like a report card for a specific time period, maybe a quarter or a whole year. It simply lists all the money that came in and then subtracts all the money that went out. What's left at the end? That's the magic number.
And you know, the math behind it is surprisingly straightforward. It's a simple step-by-step process. First, you start at the very top with all your sales revenue. Then, you take away the cost of sales. That's basically what it costs to make the stuff you sold. What you have now is your gross profit. But we're not done. From there, you subtract all the other costs of running the business, things like rent, marketing, salaries, and that number you're left with, way down at the bottom, that's the one everybody's talking about. Net profit. Okay, but hold on. Here's where it gets interesting. Our first little plot twist. Just because that number at the top, the sales revenue, is going up, that doesn't automatically mean the business is healthier. Nope. It's a classic mistake to think so.
Okay, check this out. Let's imagine this company, Wannabe Rich Traders, decides to have a huge clearance sale. In one version of the story, they get a small increase in sales, but they had to slash their prices so deep that their final profit actually dropped. A total failure, right? But in another version, that same discount is like pure magic. It brings in a massive flood of new customers, and the sheer volume of sales more than makes up for the lower prices. The profits go through the roof. It just goes to show you, context is everything.
So, we've seen how a bad sale can wreck your profits. But that's not the only monster hiding in the closet. There are other things, much sneakier things, that can quietly eat away at a company's bottom line. And one of the biggest, baddest of these profit killers has a name: shrinkage. It's the official accounting term for when inventory just disappears or becomes worthless. And it's for any reason other than, actually selling it to a customer. And listen, when you hear shrinkage, your mind probably jumps straight to theft. And yeah, shoplifting and even employee theft are definitely a part of it. But it's so much bigger than that. We're talking about products getting broken in the warehouse, food that goes bad, last season's clothes that are now totally out of style, even something as weird as a pile of compost that literally shrinks after it rains. Every single one of those things is profit that just vanished into thin air.
All right, so let's recap. We know that the main profit number can fool you. And we know there are all these hidden costs, like shrinkage, lurking around. So, how do we get a real sense of how healthy a company is? Well, we have to start looking beyond that one big number.
And this is where the real detective work comes in. Think of it like this. Profit is the flashy headline on the front page. But financial ratios? That's the real story. That's the deep dive article that tells you what's actually going on. They work by comparing different numbers to each other to give you some much-needed perspective.
And here we've got the two most important questions any smart analyst is going to ask. First, you've got profitability ratios. These basically ask, how good is this company at actually making money? For every rand that comes through the door, how many cents do they get to keep? But then you've got liquidity ratios. And these ask an even more immediate, almost panicky question. Can this company pay its bills, like right now? And this is so important because a company can look super profitable on paper, but go completely bankrupt if it doesn't have actual cash on hand to pay its debts.
Okay, theory's great, but let's make this real. Let's look at one of the absolute go-to tools that savvy investors use to figure out if a stock is a genuine bargain or just overpriced.
It's a little thing called the price-to-earnings ratio, or just PE for short. And all it does is answer one simple, powerful question.
For every single rand of profit this company makes in a year, how many rands are investors like you and me willing to pay for it today?
All right, pop quiz. Let's put this to the test. You've got two companies. Company A's stock costs R50 a share. Company B is cheaper, only R40 a share. So which one is the better deal? Your gut probably says Company B, right? It costs less. But let's dig a little deeper.
Okay, time to lift the hood. Turns out, Company A, with its pricier R50 stock, is actually earning a solid R5 for every share. Meanwhile, Company B, at R40 a share, is only earning 1.67. So now we do the math. We divide the share price by the earnings, and boom, Company A has a PE ratio of 10. Company B, its PE is way up at 24.
And this is such a perfect example of a core investing truth. The share price, all by itself, is basically meaningless when you're trying to figure out if something's a good value. You absolutely have to know what you're getting for that price.
Just look at this chart. It makes it crystal clear. If you want to buy 1 rand's worth of Company A's profits, it'll cost you R10. But to get that exact same 1 rand of profit from Company B, you have to shell out R24. Suddenly that cheaper R40 stock looks ridiculously expensive, doesn't it? Company A is without a doubt the better value here.
Okay, so you've got these awesome new tools in your belt. But before you run off, there's one last, really important piece of the puzzle. We have to talk about reading the fine print and what the numbers don't tell you.
This quote from the source material really hits the nail on the head. It says that financial statements are historical. What does that mean? It means they're like looking in your car's rear-view mirror. They show you exactly where the company has been, but they can't promise you where it's going. One amazing year doesn't guarantee the next one will be just as good.
So let's just quickly go over the new toolkit you've put together today. You now know to look past the big, flashy profit number. You know to look out for those sneaky hidden costs like shrinkage. You know how to use ratios to give a company a proper health check. And you know how to use the PE ratio to find out what a stock is really worth compared to its peers.
The bottom line is, you're now equipped to read between the lines, to find the real, hidden story inside any company's financial reports. So, I guess the only question left is, now that you have the tools, what story are you going to uncover next?